The All Progressives Congress is one of the front runners going into the next general election, the first part of which comes up on Saturday, February the 25th. But how easy has it been for the party trying to retain the trust and confidence of Nigerians? Well, to have a conversation, we're now being joined by Hannatu Musawa, Deputy Spokesperson of APC's Presidential Campaign Council. Good morning. Good to have you, Madam Hannatu. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Thank you very much. Well, let's go straight into it. I know that things are getting a lot busy and busier these days. I observed that on Friday when the women group of the Presidential Campaign Council organized a dinner for your candidate and the running mate. And I saw that Asiwaju was there, but he had to take his leave quite early. And of course, he gave some, excuses why he had to leave early. Tell us, does that signify how the kitchen is getting hot, politically speaking? And what are you women doing to douse the tension less than 2 weeks to the presidential election?
Thank you again for having me on the show. Yes, there was a dinner on Friday. I was actually there at the dinner. And of course, Asiwaju had to leave early, and as he had explained, he had a meeting with the president. He had an appointment with the president at the behest of the president himself. So, he had to leave early to be able to honor that. And I think that more than anything shows the level of activeness of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's actually a man that has not been able to rest since his declaration earlier on last year. So yes, he left the dinner early. He went to meet the president at the behest of the president. However, as he promised, because it was for women, and the plight of women and the issue of women is very high on the agenda of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he promised that he would honor another meeting, another dinner with the ladies. So we have been able to postpone the dinner, and it's going to be actually held tonight. And we're very grateful that he's able to sort of fit us into his very, very busy schedule. And to the second leg of your question, where you said something about the heat in the kitchen, it has been quite hot in the kitchen. I dare say it has been a very rigorous campaign from the beginning. And about 13 days to the election, now you can imagine, I think for all the candidates and all the people involved in all the campaign council, it's a very busy and rigorous time. But we're all committed to ensure that we are able to play our part in ensuring that we're able to record the sort of victory that we envisage at the election.
Well, it is refreshing to hear you talk about, women inclusion in your party. Now, as Steve has mentioned, just 2 weeks to the presidential election, given all the impending squabbles within your party, how would you rate your party's level of preparedness, especially with President Muhammadu Buhari's public support of Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Many are asking, is his endorsement of Tinubu an asset or a liability?
Well, first of all, if it's Ms. Oji I'm speaking to, it's a pleasure to be able to communicate with you. I've been a huge fan of yours for a very, very long time. So it's nice that we're able to interact in this way.
I appreciate that.
President Muhammadu Buhari has been very, very supportive of our candidate and his aspiration. And I think from a personal point of view, his support of us has been a positive, especially given the fact that President Buhari still has a very cult-like following, especially in the northern part of the country, which has emerged as the sort of battleground of this election. So his support, his covert, open support of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been a plus for us in many, many ways. And despite what the media reports, that there are plans to sort of scuttle the candidacy or the aspiration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Muhammadu Buhari has done all he can from the level as a party member to see that he gives him all the support. But we also have to understand that despite the fact that President Buhari wants to support the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's also the president of 200 plus million Nigerians. So in one leg, he also has to make sure that he's able to give Nigerians the support that they need to ensure that the process is credible enough to give everybody a chance and not to disenfranchise anyone. And we understand that as a party. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands that and appreciates President Muhammadu Buhari for that.
All right. In July of last year, you wrote an article which I believe was titled, I Have a New Dream. If you remember that, your article, that you had a new dream. A lot of people took away the fact that what you were trying to say was to negotiate or to explain away the reason why the candidate of your party, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will run on a Muslim ticket. Was that what you were trying to do? And people are asking, if you have a new dream, how does that new dream tie with the renewed hope of your candidate? How does that dream tie with the fact that youths in Nigeria are still crying, for relevance? How does it tie with the fact that people are saying that in a country that is an oil major in the world, we're still queuing to buy petrol? What was this dream you had, and how is it still relevant now that we are 2 weeks away from election?
Yeah, of course, yes, I did write that article. That article actually was written as a response to, the sort of, as a response to the sort of brouhaha that was, that came up as a result of the Muslim ticket of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Alhaji Kashim Shettima. And, I was trying to sort of explain from my own perspective why it is necessary for us to be able to look beyond this issue of religion and even tribe and ethnicity, to be able to see ourselves as one. And it shouldn't really matter where a person comes from. It shouldn't really matter what he speaks, the language they speak, and the religion that they are. We are Nigerians, and we all have one aspiration, which is to ensure that we have a peaceful, progressive country, one that is united. And that is very, very important to me. I understood the reason why it was necessary for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu at that time to choose a Muslim ticket. And it was part of what I used that particular forum to be able to understand. But I also wanted to communicate to Nigerians that it is important for us to be able to look beyond the issue of the Muslim ticket or the religion or tribe or ethnicity, and just look at ourselves as one, and to look at capacity and credibility. And essentially that is what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did. He chose a Muslim running mate, not because that person was a Muslim. He chose him because he felt that that was the one individual that would be able to give him the sort of support that he needed to give a successful leadership to Nigeria once, hopefully, he becomes president. And he wasn't going to be bogged down by the issue of tribe or religion especially. And the fact that he was a southerner and he wanted to choose someone from the north, in the northern part of the country, there are Muslims and there are Christians, and he wasn't going to let religion sort of limit his ability to choose who he thought was the best candidate. And in his choice of a Muslim ticket, it doesn't mean that there are Christians that are not credible. It also doesn't mean that every other Muslim that he didn't choose was not credible either. He just wanted to choose someone that he felt comfortable enough with to be able to give him the sort of deliverables that he had promised to Nigerians. And I really do hope that at some point that as a nation, we are able to sort of pull through, to push through, so that in future the issue of tribe, religion does not really play a part. We look at individuals and their ability to sort of deliver for us as a nation. I really do hope we get there one day. And that was the new dream that I had. And I was able to sort of articulate that in the article that I wrote.
All right, fantastic. 2 questions here. Now, what are the likely impact of the economic crisis as we face it now on Tinubu's chances? You know, as you have said, he's been quite vocal about people in power or elements in Aso Rock trying to scuttle the election with the Naira redesign policy and the fuel crisis, or fuel scarcity. He recently hailed the Supreme Court judgment temporarily halting the deadline on old Naira notes. I'd like to know what the impact might be on his emergence, if that would be. And also, many have accused the APC, this is my second question, of intimidation in Lagos or intimidating Lagos voters. Over yesterday or so, a traditional ruler who is said to have been invited for questioning over a recorded audio which appeared to threaten and intimidate residents of a community in the Tiosa area of the state. I don't know if you have heard that viral recording. I'd like for you to address both issues.
Okay, I think the first one is about the Naira, the redesign and how it impacts or affects us. Well, thank God that there is a Supreme Court ruling that gives Nigerians the ability, hopefully, to be able to access their own money. I think what all of us would agree is that this policy, though well intended by those policymakers that introduced it or sold that idea to President Muhammadu Buhari, we must all admit that it has really been very harsh for Nigerians. The last 2 weeks or so, where Nigerians have not been able to access cash, has almost resembled somewhat of an Armageddon situation, whereby people are suffering and people have even died. I've heard reports of people going to the hospital and not being able to afford get money for medicine, and it has detrimental effect on people's lives in the rural areas. We complain in the metropolis, but you can imagine in the rural areas what Nigerians are going through. You can't even buy anything in the market because you don't have cash, and the people in the market can't sell their wares, so they can't even support their families. So it has had a detrimental effect on Nigerians. But thank God that we've had someone like Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu that, despite the fact this was introduced by a party that he's representative of, thank God he had the courage to come out and speak out about how it has affected Nigerians. He didn't speak out because of how it's going to affect him as a person, because we believe no matter what happens in the next 13 days, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is still going to win this election. But his own concern was about how it affected Nigerians, and it was very important for him to speak out. And it is sad that you have other people that have been able, other party members, that have been able to weaponize the suffering of Nigerians. This isn't a political issue anymore for us. This is about how this policy, or rather the implementation of it, and the inability of the CBN to sort of meet the demands of the Nigerian public has really affected Nigerians. This has affected us, and I think it does. I mean, there's no doubt it has had detrimental effect on our campaign, because you do have people that look at the woes that Nigerians are going through, and they attribute it to the party, and they're only able to connect the party with the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So they're painting him with the brush that they're painting the lack of ability to implement this policy properly to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But I think as time goes on, Nigerians are able to understand that if there are a level of saboteurs within the system that are trying to affect the candidacy, or rather the campaign of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they understand that this has been targeted at him. And once you understand that, then you know that he is not fault. If he's the one that has been targeted, then he is actually the innocent one in this. And it is those who are supporting the plight of the Nigerian people that are benefiting from the despair that Nigerians are going through. And I think as we go on, since we still have 2 weeks to go, I think a lot of people have been able to understand that. And those of us that have the ability to communicate with those at the grassroots are trying as much as we can to communicate this information to them. However, despite all this, since we have this Supreme Court ruling, and of course we have the Council of State, who advised who of course agreed with the policy in and of itself, but then spoke to the CBN to say that you either print more notes or you make available the old notes. So I think in the next few days, this should be able to ease, and people will be able to have access to money in a way that will be able to help them support their families. So it has affected us, but I don't think it's affected us to a point that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to win this election. I think the momentum has already been set, and I don't see any scenario in which he will not be able to be successful. On the second leg of your question about the intimidation, I don't know. I didn't hear the recording, but I have read reports of some people attacking, members of Labour Party and what have you. I think what we are all in agreement with in Nigeria, not just in APC, but all the parties, we're in agreement that any individual that breaks the law or tries to intimidate any member of any party should face the full wrath of the law. We are not interested in intimidating anyone as a party. And if anyone has been intimidated, maybe they've been intimidated by individuals. It is not a policy of the party to go and do that. I think as a campaign, especially that of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we're quite comfortable in our position. We don't need to deploy means to intimidate anyone, because we believe that we're the front runners, and we want a situation, and I think Asiwaju has spoken to us specifically about this. It is important for him to win this election in a way that looks free and fair to everyone. He doesn't want anyone disenfranchised, because he wants to be able to lead a country that believes in his success, and he doesn't want anyone to be disenfranchised, which is why we actually supported the policy. If the policy was one that was supposed to, the Naira change policy, if it was a policy that was supposed to stop vote buying, it is something that we completely bought into, because we don't as a party want to be seen as have been vote buying in a way that would anger Nigerians, because Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants to govern a very satisfied and united country, and it doesn't work in our favor to intimidate anyone. And if anyone has been intimidated, I think the full wrath of the law, the authorities needs to investigate, and the full wrath of the law has to be brought down on those individuals.
All right. Let me also ask you 2 questions, if that's fine. First is to ask for your own assessment of the candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, given what a former colleague of yours on the Presidential Campaign Council, Ajia Najatu Mohammed, has said about him. She said, basically, painting a picture of somebody whose physical infirmity is astonishing. You relate closely with Asiwaju. What's your own experience with him? That's one. Secondly, does it bother you at all, and as a journalist that you are, that there won't be a presidential debate in which your candidate will be a part of for this election? Does it bother you at all that the Nigerian, debate organization has had to cancel twice what they planned, and feel as it was because your candidate refused to commit to participating? Does it bother you that 3 of the other top contenders were part of the town hall meeting organized by the Nigerian Guild of Editors, but the only response out of the top 4, the only person who didn't commit to coming and who didn't show up was Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu? I'm asking you this as a journalist, as a lawyer, as somebody who is given to free speech. It's less than 2 weeks to election, but it doesn't look like there will be a presidential debate, let alone one that Asiwaju Tinubu will be part of. Does it bother you at all?
Well, okay, let me go with the last question that you asked about the debate. You know, ideally, there should be a debate, and it is something that Asiwaju himself really wanted to submit himself to, and he's been telling us as a campaign council that he really wanted to present himself for debate. It is actually us, the campaign council, who have been resisting it, especially us within the media campaign council, because we felt that there's a sort of bias with the media, and I think everybody would agree that it's quite evident that there seems to be an apparent bias. One that I don't specifically blame the media for, because we are the ruling party. So obviously we have to be held to a higher standard. But even at that, we didn't want to expose our candidate to a situation where he's not going to be giving a fair level playing ground. Asiwaju has told us time and again that he wants to do these debates from the beginning, because I was one of the first people that was actually appointed in the campaign council. He's been saying that he wants to do the debate, but we have been telling him that we don't think that we want to expose him to that, because there really is, from our point of view, a bias in the media in the way the reporting of the campaign. There seems to be more a tilt towards one or two candidates, in a way that we feel that Asiwaju is not being given a level playing ground. You look at situations where every single candidate has made human error in the way they talk. All of us make mistakes when we speak, but it is that of Asiwaju that keeps on being a sort of is being amplified every time. But you have other candidates that think Nasarawa state is a country. You have other candidates that say APC, let APC win. Every single one of these candidates, because we're all human beings, and it's only natural. And of course, the way in which Asiwaju has been committing himself to these debates is very rigorous. It's only natural that he's going to have one or two situation where, you know, he has that human error. But the way in which it is reported sort of shows a sort of bias. When you see the other candidates say, you hardly hear anything from the media. So because we felt that there's a level of bias with the media and these particular platforms that are presenting these debates, we were the ones who said to him that we don't feel comfortable presenting him in that way. And we would feel more comfortable for him to present himself to the Nigerian public in town hall meetings and, you know, at the grassroots engagement and what have you. So, of course, like I said, ideally there should be a debate. But if only we had an unbiased umpire, then we would be more than happy to encourage Asiwaju to come for the debates.
You don't think that the Nigerian elections debate group is an unbiased umpire? It's not a media organization, it's the body.
I think there are individuals in all of these groups. Yeah, I think there are individuals in all of these groups, individuals who have been biased. And in their utterances, we've been able to see that. And so we, like I said, as individuals, these groups are not, they're not animate situations, are they? It is individuals that are piloting these groups, and individuals within these groups have been biased, and we don't feel comfortable presenting him on those platforms, and it is our advice that we've given him rather than him shying away. So we take responsibility for that. On the second issue about my experience,
just one moment. Yeah. All the top members, all the top members of the campaign council in the media, those who are professional journalists, are members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, as far as I know. You are also not comfortable with the sort of town hall that the Nigerian Guild of Editors has had. Atiku appeared, Obi appeared, Kwakwanso appeared, but not Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You think that the NGE will also be biased?
There are individuals within these entities. Yeah, there are individuals within these entities. It's not everyone that is biased there. But there are individuals that are piloting some of these debates, which we feel are biased, and I stand by that. In the reportage of this election, those particular individuals we feel have been biased, and we're not going to give Asiwaju a fair chance to to present his own action plan and vision, and and that's really the reason why. So it's not the guild itself, it's just individuals within these entities that we feel have not been fair to Asiwaju as a candidate. And so we advise him not to go on these debates. But even despite that, he's still been able to present himself to Nigerians in all the other engagements that he has. And what is important is not these entities. What is important is the 93 plus, I think 93.4 million registered voters. That is our target. That is our focus. And that is where the focus of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been since the flag off of this campaign. That is what's most important to us. So despite the fact maybe we have some of these entities that are not happy with us for not presenting ourselves to them, we hope that the majority of these 93 million voters are happy with Asiwaju because he's presented himself to them directly. So yeah, that's what that is. And on the second issue about my experience with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I often speak about experience, because nobody can really talk about another person's experience. And I don't want to, if anybody has said this is what their experience has been with him, I respect their own experience. My own personal experience interacting with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that this is a man who has all his faculties in place to a point that he has very advanced thinking. This is a man, I think, that will do Nigeria a great service, that will be able to provide the sort of leadership. This is a man that has the sort of vision, and I say character, clout, capacity. He has the courage, he has the sincerity of purpose that is able to look at Nigeria, look at all the problems that Nigeria has, and is able to provide solutions for Nigeria. I really believe that he really is that person, and I'm quite passionate in my support of him. And if I felt in my interaction with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu that he does not have the ability to be able to govern in the way that is required because of some sort of diminished mental capacity, I would not be supporting him, because beyond everything, my love for Nigeria transgresses my love for any individual in Nigeria. I love Nigeria and I want the best for Nigeria. And because I want the best for Nigeria, I'm supporting a man that I feel, from my experience with him and from my knowledge of what he has done in the past and what he says that he's going to do in the future, what he has committed himself to do in the future, I feel that he really is the best person. And I know that. I know that personally because of the experience that I've had with him.
All right. As we begin to wrap up this conversation, I'd like to touch again on women in politics and why you think women involvement in Nigerian partisan politics is still at such an abysmal level. As you know, the national average of women's political participation in Nigeria remains at 6.7% in elective and appointive positions, which is far below the global average of 22.5%. Now, tell me what you think, as a journalist as well, that could be done to, curb this whole, to help this whole movement come back alive, if possible.
I think one of the, again, you know, we spoke about experience earlier on, and from my experience and interaction with Asiwaju, one of the things that really encouraged me about him, apart from the plan he had for Nigeria and the plan he has for Arewa, because I'm from the northwestern part of the country, Katsina, and I think some of the policies that he has for us, I think is something that really sort of encouraged me to support him. But also as a woman, and as a woman that has been involved in politics for a while, you know, the plans that he has for Nigeria, it's so sad, the level of participation of women and the sort of lack of inclusion of women. And hopefully, if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu becomes the president of the country by the grace of the Almighty, we look at a situation where he wants women participation in a way that we've never seen in Nigeria. He wants to be able to also encourage the legislature to come up with this affirmative action that will be able to give women the sort of platform that they need. He speaks about also speaking with the party or engaging with the party in a way that will come up with different different systems that will include them in a way that women have to be included. We hope that by the time Asiwaju gets into office, there will be at least 35% of women in his cabinet. There will be agencies, major agencies, that will be able to have women to have women at the head of those agencies. He speaks about trying to ensure that girls stay in school, so that once you stay in school, that is your passageway to be able to maybe graduate into situations where you're able to participate in politics. We really do need more women inclusion, and I hope and I pray that Aisha Dahiru in Adamawa Binani becomes successful, because I think her success is going to open more doors for women. And of course, the inclusion of so many women in his campaign council also gives that representation that other women need to be able to see that they also can aspire to the same position. So I think Nigerians will be very excited and will be very pleased to see the way that Asiwaju is going to include women in his government, and the way that he's going to engage all the arms of government to make sure that they include women at the top of the tier, so that we have the representation, you encourage other women, and it opens doors, and so that we're able to smash that glass ceiling.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you very much, Hannatu, for joining us on the morning show this morning.
Thank you.
It was quite a pleasure to have you.